On the 13th and final Sunday of the season, we call to mind the freedom of belief section of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, which says, congressional freedom and the individual's right of consciousness are central to our Unitarian Universalist heritage. Congregations may establish statements of purpose, covenants, and bonds of union, so long as they do not require members adhere to particular creeds. And now we'll sing hymn 116, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way.
Good morning. I'm Martha Sherrick Shen, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm your celebrant this morning.
I'm the Reverend Meredith Garmon, Zir or he, him.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Our building is located on land that has been home to various people in the last 12,000 years, including at the beginning of European encroachment, the Iowa, Sauk, and Meskwaki. These lands were also once home to the Carolina parakeet, extinct since 1918. As we enter this space, the ghosts of humans and other animals past are among us. Let us recommit to understanding the history of the land it occupies and to owning our part in the work of education, reparation, and healing for all species.
Our purpose is to associate ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, hoping thereby to prove helpful one to another and to promote truth, righteousness, and love in the world.
This bond of union is reiterated in our mission to grow ethically, and spiritually, serve justly, and love radically.
It's a blessing you were born. It matters what you do. Your experience of the divine is true, and you don't have to go it alone.
Today is the 13th and final Sunday of winter. The moon is waxing gibbous, and the worm moon will be full 1 week from today.
The Muslim holy month, Ramadan, began with the sighting of the new crescent moon. The first day of Ramadan was Monday in some countries, including North America, and Tuesday in other countries. Ramadan is a month of fasting from sunup to sundown, with prayers, reflection, and community meals before sunrise or after sundown. Ramadan Mubarak. And on the Christian calendar, today is the 5th Sunday of Lent. Lent will last 2 more weeks until Easter on March 31st, and it's St. Patrick's Day.
A special welcome to our visitors. For those of you on Zoom, thanks for tuning in. Please be sure your mics are muted. If you are here with children, feel free to keep them seated with you or utilize our play area in the back, or there is childcare available downstairs. Newcomers are invited to a UU Curiosity conversation on the first Sunday of every month. The next one will be April 7th after the service. Please be mindful that some folks here value silence after music to let the experience sink in. If you can, however, silently applaud using sign language. It's like your fingers are dancing to this, right? That's cool.
Our connection circles are small groups that gather to explore monthly themes and to build relationship. It's a key way that we live out our mission to grow ethically and spiritually. If you're not in one, please sign up, become a part of a group. It's never too late. Our theme for the month of March is generosity. Issues of connecting are available in the basket just outside the doors. And so we begin with the lighting of our chalice.
Please say with me the chalice lighting words in your order of service. We light this chalice to kindle the fire of commitment, to spread our beloved faith, proclaim the good news that all are worthy and all are welcome, that God is love and none shall be left behind. May we carry this flame to all we encounter, letting our lives shine with its glow. The responsive reading is number 461 in the back of the gray hymnal, We Need One Another by George Odell. The side on my left will begin.
And the side on my right will respond with the indented italicized words.
Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime.
Therefore we are saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in the immediate context of history. Therefore we are saved by faith.
Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone.
Therefore we are saved by love.
No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or our foe as our own.
Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness.
For our sung invocation, words are in your order of service.
Good morning. My name is Birch Spick. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I am your Faith Formation and Congregational Life Coordinator. Our story this morning is called Hide and Seek with God by Mary Ann Moore. Once upon a time, God said,
I'm bored because I don't have anything to do. I want to play with my friends.
and because God is God, as soon as the words were spoken, God's friends were there. When God saw them all gathered, God said,
I've been bored because I haven't had anything to do. Let's play something.
Good idea, said God's friends. What shall we play? God thought for a minute and then said,
I know. Let's play hide and seek.
The friends all said, yeah. They knew that hide and seek with God was always exciting and different because God was the one who hid, and God always thought of the most wonderful places to hide. God's friends closed their eyes and counted to 10. When they opened their eyes, God wasn't there anymore. So they all went off to look for God. One friend decided to look close on earth and soon came to a meadow. As he was searching, he stopped to admire the tender new sprouts of green grass pushing their way up toward the sun. As he bent over more closely to look at the tender green, he realized there was something special and amazing and wonderful about it. So he jumped up and ran back to home base, calling out, I found God! God is green and growing. I found God in the grass. Another one of God's friends decided to go look for God in the night. She watched the sun go down over the hills and treetops and heard the workaday noises stop, saw the lights in the houses go out. And as it got darker and the peaceful night wrapped itself around her, she listened very hard. And then she realized that there was something special and amazing and wonderful about it. And when it was so still that she could see and hear nothing at all, she suddenly jumped up, ran to home base, calling out, I found God! God is dark and peaceful. I found God in the night. A third friend looked on the earth and felt the mystery of the grass growing toward the sun. He stayed and watched the night come on, and he felt the mystery of the darkness and the stars. He thought to himself, these mysteries are special and amazing and wonderful. But when he finally came back to home base, he said, I found wonderful mysteries, but I'm not sure if I want to call them God. A fourth friend decided to look for God where people were. He joined a group of people going home from work and went with them to the store where they bought food. He went with them back out on the street, and as they started for their homes, he was with them when someone came up and said, please, I'm very hungry. Could you share a little food with me? The people readily agreed, and as he watched them share, he realized there was something special and amazing and wonderful about these people. He turned around and he ran to home base, calling out, I found God! God is love and sharing. I found God in the people who care for one another. Finally, two more of God's friends, a boy and a girl, decided to look for God together. After a time, they came to a house and decided to look for God in the house. In the house, they saw a room and they looked for God in the room. In the room, they saw a mirror, and they looked for God in the mirror. And as they looked into the mirror, they realized there was something special and amazing and wonderful being reflected in it. They turned around and ran to home base, calling out, "We found God! We found God in us." At this, God appeared again and said,
I had so much fun. Weren't those good hiding places? Some of you found me, others weren't sure, and others are still looking. And that's okay, because the most important thing is just to play the game. Let's do it again. I'm sure I can think of other good hiding places.
And they all called out, "Ollie, Ollie, oxen free, free, free," and the game started all over again. We are on spring break still. Our regular classes will begin next Sunday on the 24th. In the meantime, I invite all of the children here to stay with us for the rest of the service. And now we will have a word from Sue Huber and Leanne Back.
Hi, I'm Sue Huber. My pronouns are she and her.
And I'm Leanne Back, and my pronouns are also she and her. I'm Leanne Back, and my name is Leanne Back, and my pronouns are she and her. You caught me off guard.
Oopsie. Guess what? God speaking again. Anyway. Hey, it's that time of year again.
Spring? You mean the sun and the skies are warm and the temperature is warm and I'm not reading my script very well?
No.
I will do that.
No.
You can tell we did not rehearse this.
No, that's not what I mean.
Well, then what do you mean?
Well, it's time for nominations. We're beginning our search for new board members.
What does it mean to be a board member?
It means to build teamwork, make decisions for the church now and in the future, and listen to people's concerns, and put together a budget, among other things.
Well, that doesn't sound very fun.
There are parts that aren't fun, but you also get to form friendships with board members, attend retreats, maybe enjoy a beer or some meals together. You have learned to do more teamwork, cry a little, laugh a lot. You get to work on your spiritual development, and you get the satisfaction of seeing your efforts of your hard work and maybe appreciation from the people in this church. And there's something, and you get to have a little special thing on your name tag.
A little red ribbon.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like a rewarding way to be involved in the church. Where do I sign up?
Well, you can sign up online. There's a place online. And if you want to, we'll have a table outside the church today, on the service here, to talk about it. And this is also a really good time to be a board member, because you get to spend the first year with Reverend Garmon, and then the next 2 years, you get to help the new settled minister become part of our church. So it's a great time to be a board member.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Compassion is the key to give as has been given to you. Renew your soul and go within to find your light. Renew your soul and go find your light. The sun gives light to feed the earth. So the soul gives love. The soul gives love. The soul gives love to feed the light. The soul gives love to feed the light. The light, the sun and moon and stars, lights upon our soul, lights upon our souls and gives us light. Compassion is the key to life. Compassion is the key to give as has been given to you. Renew your soul and go within to find your light. Renew your soul and go within to find your light.
My name is Ann Mowry, she, her, and hers. I'm a pastoral care associate. Our church is a community of memory and hope, a community of hands and hearts, a community for sharing laughter and tears and bearing witness to one another as we journey through sorrows and joys. Sometimes we do this in group gatherings, and sometimes you just need one other person to hear and to hold with you whatever you might be going through. Your pastoral care team is here to help you process any significant transition. If you'd like to do that, please speak to me or another member of the pastoral care team, or email pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org. And for more collectively bearing witness to one another's journeys, today we have one sorrow to share. We are holding Alan and Amanda and Keo Cruz in our hearts as they mourn the loss of their son and brother, Jake, who died March 8th. Service arrangements are not quite finalized, but we will share the information as they are. We're sending healing wishes to Mary Ellen Miller, who had a second shoulder replacement surgery a couple of weeks ago. She is home and doing well, though she knows there's a long road of recovery ahead of her. Elaine Imlau shares this joy. We did it. The Afghan family is now in a new home. Thanks to our moving crew of 20, plus the boys in the family, we had everything moved out, cleaned up, and reset at church before noon yesterday. The new bunk bed assembly crew had a more challenging task. Thanks to Tom Thurtell, Sherwin Back, and Ed Hoshkin for persevering until 4 o'clock yesterday. The family is very thankful for our generosity in housing them these last 5.5 weeks, and very appreciative of the help Saturday in getting them settled. Our participation does not stop now, however. The family fund we have will pay the bills until they get established. Transportation continues to be a need for shopping, medical and dental appointments, school runs, and maybe some fun outings once in a while, like cricket games. Let Elaine know, and she will pass your name on to lawyer Jennifer, because Elaine is not in charge anymore. Woo-hoo! Let us share now together the names of anyone we know who could use special care and attention. You may call the name out loud or type it into the chat. As we share these names, may the love of this community hold them all.
Dear source of healing and wholeness, we call by many names. Spirit of life and love and ground of being. Our hearts are with the Cruz family, our healing thoughts with Mary Ellen Miller, and may the names we have spoken be held in love. We seek to be instruments of peace, vehicles for justice, for others and for ourselves. The grief of the world sometimes seems so overwhelming, yet we are called not to turn our backs. We are called to face all the world's pain and be not confused or weakened or overwhelmed, but to be steadfast in our mission, to be people of love in the midst of harm, people of kindness and empathy in the midst of cynicism and narcissism, people building hope and meaning in the midst of despair and nihilism. We are called not to turn away, but to take in all the suffering, to hold it in awareness always, even in our times of delight, of enjoyment and pleasure, of laughter and warm camaraderie. May our minds hold also awareness of the downtrodden, the persecuted, the oppressed, the exploited, the tortured. We hold in our hearts all those embroiled in armed conflict. May there be peace. In India, Parliament is voting on a citizenship law that excludes Muslims. And in Haiti, gang violence sweeps through the capital city. May there be reconciliation and accountability. Everywhere also there are signs of hope, of improved justice and welfare. A project in Africa has persuaded thousands of farmers to replace barren monocultures with biodiverse forest gardens. And a UN report this week says that child mortality is down, a result of better systems for providing skilled midwives to delivering mothers, follow-up home visits from health professionals, and improved vaccination rates. Deaths of children under 5 have decreased 51% since 2000 and 62% since 1990. In Japan, acceptance of same-sex marriage got a boost this week when courts declared illegal the nation's current ban. Ibrahim Abu Hani, co-owner of Bartul Cakes in Gaza, bakes cakes for people living in tents. Worldwide, every day, people give their energies and creativity to building peace, justice, compassion, and joy, including here in our congregation, where members of our church provided hundreds of volunteer hours and hundreds of dollars to support the Afghan family that was with us. As you heard, the family moved yesterday from this church into a church member's home, providing the family with safe housing for the near future. Mindful of this world of pain and of love, and of tragedy and beauty, let us bring compassion to our every moment. Let us be voices of justice and peace in everything we say and everything we do.
May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world, and may we not look away when we are needed. May we confront what is cruel, heal what is broken, and delight in what is good. We light 3 candles, one for the joys and sorrows shared aloud, one for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us. For all of these, we now observe a minute of silence.
I came here to First Unitarian in 2011 by osmosis through the channels of my daughter, Abra. I see the ineffable God in everything and beyond everything. I am a mystic and a panentheist. Christianity is my first spiritual language. However, I no longer fit into that category. Many of you have been harmed by Christian dogma, so I have not been comfortable using at first I was not comfortable using the word God here, as I too have been hurt, but the words and stories of hope, love, and care reverberate in my soul. Jesus was an outspoken advocate for the poor and the outcast. I have come to understand the word God is too small. I now say the ineffable. Unitarian Universalists, what a diverse group of free thinkers we are. We are atheists, agnostics, theists, humanists, Buddhists, Christians, pagans, mystics. Each discipline uses its own language. Religion, like any other language, is composed of symbols. There is no wrong language, although some languages are better at certain concepts than others. This is also true of religions. Sometimes translations are necessary to understand one another. I love metaphors and analogies. I realize that a common language for Unitarians is science. I often use the language of science to translate from my spiritual language to yours. I was in awe when I first saw that biology is chemistry, is physics, is math. Mathematics is our symbolic language for the dynamic happenings, the events in the whole universe. Think about that. It's just a symbol for what's happening. I see physics as the dance of the universe and mathematics as the score of the music it dances to. I like to think our moral values are the linking translator for Unitarians, the mathematics that enables us to translate from one form of religious energy into another. I think our 7 Unitarian principles as the mathematical denotation of love. Love is like gravity. We can describe it, but we do not really know what gravity is. I love the biblical verse, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. That verse is speaking about Jesus, but it is true of us when our words and our actions are in one accord and born of love. Then the stories of our lives become the calculus to express the instantaneous changes of our living, breathing reality. My granddaughter Aria was hurt by religious evangelizing. She refused to speak of God. But as she grew and her longing for something greater began to bud, I found a language we can both use. Instead of God, we talk about the music of the universe. Each molecule has a particular distinct set of vibrations, like a musical chord. Because the vibrations involve the movement of charge, these vibrations can be excited by light. Aria is a musician. She has played in orchestras. This resonated with her. An orchestra is a group of diverse people who play different instruments. They come together to play their part in musical compositions. This takes a great deal of listening and attention to play it properly. Each musician could defiantly play a different musical score at the same time, making a noisy cacophony instead of harmony. Our congregation is an orchestra. Each of us is a different instrument with a unique sound. We have different talents and different notes to play, but we all harmonize and make music together. So here's my poem, The Music of the Universe. They say the whole world vibrates. Each molecule, each subatomic particle is not static. It is a universal orchestra, and the cosmos dances to the tune. Do you hear do I hear the music? Does it touch me? Move me to sound my own notes in harmony? What song is this that fills me with wonder and awe, from the crickets with violin legs to trees trembling in the fingers of the wind, heralding the sound of the world's refrain? And the light, both a particle and a wave, electric, charged, it excites the sound, magnetism. And the light touches all, and I am lit from within. There is music in me. We now come to the offering. Our Faith in Action partners, our free store, which helps provide household items to families recovering from domestic violence and other trauma, and the Iowa Trans Mutual Aid Fund, which supports trans and gender diverse Iowans as they access gender affirming care. The living tradition we share draws on humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and result of science and warn us against adulteries of the mind and spirit. Adultery means clinging to a fixed, static concept, closing ourselves to new learning. The divine creative movement of the universe is dynamic, and human understanding is ever unfolding. The guidance of reason and the results of science continually overturn our idols, challenge what we think and know. It is up to us to fashion together the community we seek, free of idols, ever open to the truth. So let the offering be gratefully given and gratefully received.
This is a sermon about our fourth source. The living tradition we share draws on many sources, of which we designate 6, and the fourth one is Jewish and Christian teachings that call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbor as ourselves. This is also a Muslim teaching. So in the midst of Ramadan, and with Easter and Passover approaching, I wanted to look at this. It's also a sermon about our fifth source, humanist teachings. God is a bit of a contentious topic among Unitarian Universalists. Some of us resist any use of the word or concept. For others of us, some conception of God is a touchstone for making sense of life, for discerning meaning and hope amidst this confused mix of beauty and tragedy we call life. Last week, I told you about a tussle in Unitarian history that started in 1865 and lasted about 30 years. We have always rejected a creed, and then some Unitarians were like, I love being creedless. By the way, I'm not Christian. And other Unitarians were like, when we said we were creedless, we kind of meant everyone was free to work out for themselves the specific details of their relationship to Jesus. We never imagined anyone would go so far as to not be Christian at all. And then the first group, called the Radicals, was like, well, we're going that far. And the other group, called the Conservatives, was like, okay, but you're not Unitarian. And the Radicals were like, but I am Unitarian. Unitarians are my peeps. I love our churches, the sermons, the hymns, the choir, the classes and study groups, and those dinners that we are just now beginning to call potluck. And after about 30 years, the Conservatives were finally like, yeah, all right, fine. That was round 1, which sets up this week to hear about round 2. About 20 years went by, and in the middle of the 19-teens, we started up the whole cycle again. Only this time, instead of being about non-Christians, it was about non-theists. Some Unitarians were like, still love being creedless. By the way, I don't believe in God. And other Unitarians were like, When we agreed that Unitarians didn't have to be Christians, we never imagined anyone would go so far as to not be theist at all. And then the first group, called the humanists, were like, well, we're going that far. And again, it was our more Western congregations at the forefront. But Western by now was a bit further west than Pittsburgh. The Unitarian humanist movement got its start right here in Des Moines, when this congregation hosted the 1917 annual meeting of the Western Unitarian Conference. That's where this congregation's minister, Reverend Curtis Reese, met the Minneapolis minister, Reverend John Dietrich. Reese and Dietrich got to talking and discovered that each had been working on the idea of religion without God, which they would decide to call humanism. Just as a couple generations before, there were attempts to adopt a statement that would rule out these non-traditionalists. And the controversy was heated for a few years there, but no statement was ever passed, and the furor eventually petered out. What was ultimately persuasive was not any argument in a Unitarian periodical or from a Unitarian pulpit, but the simple fact that humanists and theists really could sit side by side in our pews and committee meetings and stand side by side in our social justice projects. And at our potluck dinners, the green Jell-O salad wobbled the same and tasted the same, whether brought by a humanist or a theist. We are a people that have learned, yet must periodically relearn, that we need not think alike to love alike, and that people with different beliefs can come together in one faith. With that background, I want today to look at the ongoing status of the difference between our theists and our atheists. What sort of difference is it? The disagreement sometimes seems to be ontological. That is, the parties advance competing claims about the nature of reality and what reality does and does not include. Sometimes the disagreement seems to be semantic. That is, the parties advance competing claims about what words do or may mean. Mostly, though, it seems to me that this issue is neither ontological nor even semantic. It's tribal. The parties affirm the existence or non-existence of God in order to signal their identity and group loyalty. And I think it's important for us to notice that. When tribal identity is at stake, we become rigid, inflexible, dogmatic about speaking correctly. And this is just as true for those who call themselves atheists as for those who call themselves theists. When our tribal loyalty is not at stake, almost all of us are flexible, creative, open, and charitable in the ways that we use and respond to non-standard language. The question then arises, what's more important? Defending our tribal identity or connecting with other people where they are? Let me illustrate. Some years ago, I was well into adulthood and my own children were teenagers, and we were all gathered with my parents for Thanksgiving dinner. My mom regaled the table with a story from my childhood of which I had no recollection either of the events in the story or having heard the story before. Mom said that once when I was about 5 years old, we were at some fair or carnival where I saw helium balloons for the first time. And I pondered this amazing thing. And I asked, Mom, why do they go up? And my mom, rational scientist physics professor that she was, answered me, why wouldn't they go up? Things go down, I said. Said Mom. And why do they go down? Because of gravity, I said. I was 5 years old, but I knew the word gravity. Ah, she said. Well, the balloons go up because of levity. And this satisfied me. And when years later I heard this story at the Thanksgiving table, I did not think, egad, my mother lied to me. After all, why not call it levity? She might have tried explaining that helium is less dense than air, which means it has more mass for a given volume, and that gravitational attraction is proportional to mass, so gravity's pull on the air is stronger than on the helium, pulling the air down, which pushes the less dense helium upward. But Mom knew that her 5-year-old was not ready to follow that kind of explanation, so she gave me this word, levity, as a sort of placeholder. With wisdom and quick wit, she used language to connect with me where I was rather than to leave me behind. I delight in this family story, not because Mom's answer was false, but because it is really true. I love knowing again what apparently I was first taught at age 5, but forgot. There is a force in the world called levity that makes things rise. People have different stories to make sense of our world. Some stories about reality feature a creative force that is person-like in that it knows and it wants. Other stories tell of a creative force that has knowledge and desires in a rather metaphorical sense. Still other stories depict the forces of the universe creating and destroying utterly without anything that could be compared to knowledge, intentionality, or purpose, even metaphorically speaking. Besides the different opinions of what does or does not exist out there, the ontological questions, we have different viewpoints on how words may reasonably be used, the semantic questions. In my experience and study, the core uses of the word God, I would argue, are to point to any or all of the following: community-forming power, love, the greatest source of beauty, mystery, or creativity, the widest or deepest inspiration to gratitude, humility, wonder, and awe, origin, any ultimate context and basis for meaning, value, ethics, or commitment, the widest reality to which our loyalty is owed, the cosmos. My semantic argument is that these are the most important meanings, the essence, if you will, to which people, regardless of their religious persuasion, have pretty much always been referring to when they said God. Many who speak that word would also include person-like creator, but many would not. So I regard person-like creator as non-essential. That's my semantic claim. Others disagree with me about that. They counterclaim that the word God unavoidably implies a person-like creator. And that is the thread of the thoughts that I will pick up again after our interlude. 4 weeks ago, if you remember, in a sermon about blessing, I said that theology is a kind of poetry. It's not a kind of science or natural history. As poetry making and poetry hearing beings, we need to use words creatively, to sometimes treat a peripheral association as a central meaning and ignore the meaning that had previously been thought central. I hope that we can get increasingly good at honoring each other's different experiences of what is real, the different ontological positions we may take, and that we can also get increasingly good at honoring different semantic positions and different styles of poetry and metaphor. That has sometimes been hard for us. Why? Here's why. Tribalism. There is an awful lot of religion that is neither about a sense of what's out there, nor is it about a sense of the proper use of words. It's just about whose team are you on. Tribal loyalties get in the way of honoring and respecting different experiences about what is real and different poetic inclinations for choosing words. We have a hard time simply accepting our differences when those differences symbolize what team one is on, and when team membership requires being opposed to certain other teams. And we do need our tribes. After all, another word for tribe is community, and we need community. Loyalty to our group is, by and large, a virtue. A healthy community, though, will affirm and support ethics and values beyond the tribal loyalty, and will facilitate and help integrate one's transcendent experiences of interconnection and peace. An unhealthy community gives most of its energy to nursing a shared sense of who the enemy is. Where there are no tribal loyalties at play, we humans generally are pretty flexible about adjusting our understanding of words. For example, one of my former in-laws referred to her refrigerator as the Frigidaire. She would say, for example, "There's cake in the Frigidaire." A glance at the manufacturer's label revealed that her refrigerator was actually made by Amana. But even at my most churlish teenaged self, I was not inclined to say, "No, it's not in the Frigidaire, it's in the refrigerator, which happens to be an Amana." Would you say that? Me neither. We simply adjust to different ways of using words. If Longfellow's poem Hiawatha wants to call Lake Superior Gitchie Goomy, we let him. Or consider Lewis Carroll's poem Jabberwocky. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the momwraiths outgrabe." Many of the words are made up. You can call the poem nonsense, but it isn't meaningless. The sound and rhythm and context they create for each other invite us into a world of imagination, and most of us can go with that. Tribalism, however, makes it difficult to extend the same flexibility and charity to language about God. To illustrate how attitudes about God work, consider the ways that some of us find our genial adaptability stiffening dogmatically when it comes to grammar. I, for example, occasionally find myself wrestling with my own grammar dogmatism. I am sensitive to the difference between lie and lay, and between disinterested and uninterested, and I am capable of wishing that other people were too. Where does this come from? It's about my own tribal and class loyalties. It would seem a betrayal of my grandmother's parents and beloved English teachers if I were to allow myself to relax the guard against the barbarians at the gate, dangling modifiers and saying less when they mean fewer. Those adults that we admire were the upholders of our class identity. The adults who sought to instill in me good grammar were teaching me to be faithful to my socioeconomic class. The hidden message of prescriptive grammar instruction is, don't sound like those people, the lower classes. Grammar will be emotionally important to me precisely to the degree that my class identification is emotionally important to me. So there's that question. Do I want to go for separation or do I want to go for connection? We face linguistic choices, whether to say ain't or to call a rising balloon levity or to use the word God. And as you make those choices, do you want to go for separation or connection? For me, I don't want to be a grammar Nazi. I am trying, though sometimes not succeeding, to not be. Connection is more important than separation. If I truly don't know what you mean, I can ask, and it's not like speakers of upper-class English are really on average any clearer. And neither am I going to be a Nazi about the word God. If that word allows for connecting with other people around the shared meanings of community-forming power, love, the greatest source of beauty, mystery, or creativity, the widest or deepest inspiration to gratitude, humility, wonder, awe, origin, any ultimate context and basis for meaning, value, ethics, or commitment, the widest reality to which our loyalty is owed, the cosmos, then I've decided that connecting with others is more important than separating from them based on the fact that I conceive of God's knowing or desiring more metaphorically than they do. Connecting is more important than separating. When loyalty isn't at play, as when reading Lewis Carroll's Jabberwocky, it's relatively easy to practice the gentle arts of flexibility and linguistic charity. I've come to understand that whether or not I want to insist that God necessarily must imply an entity with awareness and intentions is mostly about my tribal loyalty, just as my grammar pet peeves are. Can we Unitarian Universalists engage in a process that we would call discerning what God is calling us to do? Can we have conversations about the question, how do we serve God? Yes, we can. In talking about serving God, we would be talking about serving life and good and the flourishing of all beings, while also reminding ourselves of the finitude and corrigibility of our conceptions of life and good and flourishing, which is just what I think Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Hindus are also talking about when they speak of serving God. When we say, as we do in the fourth source of the living tradition we share, that we are called to respond to God's love by loving our neighbor as ourselves, we are saying that the moments when we have felt the greatest belonging and connection inspire us to want to help our neighbors also feel connected and know they belong, which is what I think it truly means to respond to God's love, whether or not God is conceived as a person-like entity, and regardless of how metaphorical that conception is. If I have a chance to connect with you, whoever you are, then connecting with you is usually more important than separating myself from you. If you and I have each felt mystery, wonder, and beauty come together with peace, compassion, and the softening of ego defenses, if we have opened our hearts to love, then we have a shared commonality that transcends both your dogmatic opinions about God and my dogmatic opinions about how wrong your dogmatic opinions are. That shared commonality in the moment matters more than my urge to insist on asserting my tribal identity. It turns out I can still oppose mandatory school prayer, support mandatory inclusion of evolution, favor reproductive rights, legal recognition of same-sex marriage, abolition of the death penalty, and public programs to take care of all our people, and talk about God. I can talk about the impetus of the universe as God's call for us to improve our understanding, respect our differences, serve life and freedom, and share God's preferential option for the poor. Willing to employ God talk judiciously, I can be more effective than I ever could by a fastidious refusal to invoke the one word that more clearly than any other conveys a sense of spacious mystery, tugging us toward the better angels of our nature. Moreover, I find my wholeness and healing growing the more I perform the imaginative exercise of pretending that the world might be whispering to me, calling, inviting me to love if I but listen. Listen. It is God's love calling me to respond by loving myself and my neighbor as myself. It is God's love lifting me up as levity lifts a child's balloon. May it be so for all of us. Amen.
Please rise and bow to your spirit and join in singing hymn 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
Oh, thunder. Sorry. Please say with me now our unison chalice extinguishing words, as those of you at home can extinguish your chalices. As we extinguish this chalice, we carry in our hearts that it matters not how much we have, but how generously we give. That it matters not how much we know, but how well we live. It matters not what we believe, unless it guides us towards love.
For those of you who see God, may God be with you. For those who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for those who seek a better way, may the path be found and the courage to take it step by step. Go in peace.